So the law of property. So maybe we can basically summarize what we will be looking at under this particular topic, the law of property. So under the law of property, basically we'll see, we'll be able to look at the law of property in two aspects, two major aspects. So we'll have land as a property. So here we learn about estates in land. Then we learn about what we call servitudes. Then we will learn about what we call encumbrances or charges. Encumbrances or charges. And then also we'll be able to look at other properties known as intellectual properties. Intellectual properties. Here we'll be talking about things like, let's say, for example, trademarks, patents. We'll talk about things like copyrights, trademarks, patents, copyrights. So those are basically the major ones we'll be able to look at. Intellectual properties. So properties basically that you acquire the rights probably after registration with a particular body. So under land, we'll be able to learn about estates. So in estates, we'll be able to see what we mean by a leasehold. We'll be able to see what is a freehold. And of course, what do we mean by a leasehold? Leasehold. So what do we mean by a freehold and what do we mean by a leasehold? So we'll be able to see what is a freehold estate and what is a leasehold estate. What is a freehold estate and what is a leasehold estate? So in this case, we'll be talking about things like, for example, a landlord. What are the rights of the landlord? And of course, also, let's say, for example, the tenant. So those ones basically will come under a leasehold. So what do we mean by a leasehold? Then servitudes. So these are other rights that can be enjoyed over land. So under servitudes, we will look at three also. So we will look at what we call easements. Easements. We look at easements. What is an easement over land? We look at restrictive covenants. Then also we look at something known as profit apprendre. Profit apprendre. So we'll see what is profit apprendre. So these are the rights that can actually basically be enjoyed over land. So you can have an estate, you can have other rights like servitudes, and you can have encumbrances. So you'll be able to look at all of them. And under estates, we'll go into deeper details by looking at what is a freehold estate, what is a leasehold estate. When we talk about servitudes as rights over land, so we'll see what are actually easements, what are restrictive covenants, and what is profit apprendre. Then we'll be able to look at what are encumbrances or what are charges over land as a property. So generally what you'll be able to discover is that when you talk about land as a property, it doesn't mean the land, normal land. By land, we mean land itself and anything that is actually attached or annexed to land. So in law, basically, when they mention land, they simply mean land itself and anything that is actually annexed or attached to land. In this case, now we come in with what we call, for example, buildings. So buildings basically will be recognized as land. So we'll be able to see them under leasehold in this case. So that building you are living in. So the rights are actually basically rights over land. So it is annexed to land. So things like servitudes, we'll be able to discover, let's say, for example, like profit apprendre is anything that actually basically comes from land itself. Like, for example, crops. Like, for example, if you are seeking for sand for building,
So that is something you basically extract from the land. So you'll be able to see those particular rights. So they'll be termed as being profit apprendre. So that is basically what we'll be able to look at in a summary or in a nutshell. Then we'll go into deeper details. What are actually copyrights? What are patents? What are trademarks? So what do you mean by those particular properties or intellectual properties? So I think with that, we've come to the end of our lesson today. So unless maybe you have a question, but I would wish to end there so that we go into deeper details to do with the law of property in our class on Thursday. So I don't know if there's a question at the moment. Mercy, I can see Mercy is here. So, but Mercy joined us later. I don't know if Mercy has a question. Mercy, do you have a question?
None for the moment.
The same?
None for now.
None for now. What about Lenny? Is Lenny there? So I don't know if Lenny has a question. So there's a question I left, I think last time. I don't know if you experienced any difficulties in looking at the question. It is about the role in Ryland versus Fletcher. So maybe you can have this one from Mariel. Mariel, did you experience any challenge in looking at that particular question I gave as an assignment? The role in Ryland versus Fletcher. Mariel. Is Mariel there? Did you experience any difficulty in looking at that particular question? Yes, Mariel.
Yes, I'm around.
Yes, I was asking, there's a question I left last time about the role in Ryland versus Fletcher. I don't know if you went through the question. Did you go through the question and try to do it, or you didn't?
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
You're still working on it, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, but probably make sure you go through it. Eh? It is important you look at it. You never know. Probably they'll test it. Eh? It's a very common area in the exam. So just have a look at that particular. You'll be able to get it from the notes. Eh? In case you face any difficulties, then you can reach out to me. But the answers are just right direct from the notes. The role in Ryland versus Fletcher. So it talks about strict liability under the law of torts. Strict liability under the law of torts. So wish you all a good night, and we will meet on Thursday and look at the law of property. The law of property.